Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dad to Dads podcast. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Paul Summers. Paul, welcome to the show.
All right, Robert, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Paul, you've got a very interesting story. You reached out and we were talking, and wanted to definitely get you on. But again, interesting story as well as struggle throughout your life from fighting addiction, getting sober, which 16 years, I believe, correct? Is that correct?
Yep, 16 years.
Congratulations on that. And then also a long uh, custody battle where you've had to go through the court system, the family court system, and the struggles you have with that, from a dad's point of view, a father's point of view, which
Absolutely.
you actually wrote a book about, and we'll go into that as well. But first, I wanted to hear about you. I wanted to hear about Paul growing up, kind of where you grew up, what your life was like, what you were like as a kid. Did you play sports? I know, and obviously from your background, you have a musical past and present
Yeah.
as well. But just tell me more about you.
All right. Well, thank you, Robert. Grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was it was a small town then, and it was kind of it wasn't the entertainment capital of the world like it is now, where lots of young people, go and thrive. It was according to Mitch Ryder of the Mitch Ryder and Detroit Wills, he had an interview in Playboy magazine, I believe, and he said that, excuse me, it was a place that performers go to die, and that was kind of true when I was
What's
growing up.
true? Yeah.
So yeah, so it was like the place where children were not to be seen nor heard. So, um, we kind of did not embrace the gaming industry so much as locals. You know. So yeah, growing up, I played sports. I ran track. The 800 was my race.
That's a monster.
Yeah, definitely. I went to state. I finished fourth in state. So
Very nice.
uh, yeah, so I was very into it. I never pursued a scholarship, unfortunately. But what happened right around my senior year was I started getting good on the guitar. I got into a band, and it was kind of a rock slash punk band, and that kind of attention, was like, oh, forget a forget having a future wrapped around scholarly things, which I was a good student.
Right.
Uh, so I more embraced like rock and roll and playing music and going out. And at 19, I'm already playing clubs and
Is there anybody
drinking.
you were in any bands you were modeling yourself after,
At that time,
or playing cover for? Who was?
shoot, we were. I mean, we had a wide variety of stuff. We like the. I mean, everything from Sex Pistols and Ramones to Judas Priest and uh, just kind of more like pre-alternative rock.
Yeah.
That was the stuff that was there, and yeah, then it became more about gosh, bands like the Cramps and like U2 was kind of alternative at
Yeah.
that time, compared to the rock that was on the radio um, yeah, so anything that was kind of edgy and driving, that was the
Yeah.
stuff that we liked to play. Got into a punk band called AWOL, and just a little plug real quick. My guitar that I played in that band, it is now on display at the Las Vegas Punk Rock Museum, which is it's an international punk rock, museum for punk rock music. So pretty proud of that.
That's
You
impressive. That's very impressive. I
know,
can't say that I have anything of mine in any sort of you know museum, Hall of Fame, any of that. So that's
yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an honor. It's really cool that they're honoring the
That's
local. We
great.
had a really thriving local scene. We had clubs and all the touring bands of that time. Bands like Dead Kennedys and Offspring and Black Flag, Agent Orange, all the
Yeah.
the old school punk bands. They all came through Vegas, and they all pretty much thought we had a great scene. The clubs didn't like us so much, so we ended up doing a lot of our gigs out in the desert with a generator.
Why
So
did the clubs not like having you guys?
just because we were punks,
Yeah, rowdy,
we had that
getting rowdy and stuff, or what?
getting rowdy. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
They would have much rather had disco or metal or something milder, I suppose. Yeah, we had a lot of energy to burn off, so
yeah,
we had fun. It was just it was culture shock for a lot of people who were older or more status quo, I suppose.
yeah,
People slam
yeah.
dancing and wearing wild clothes and everything that's the norm today, I suppose.
And
Colored
that's
hair.
pretty wild going out in the desert. I mean, now there's
Yeah,
festivals, right, that do that, and you guys were
yeah,
kind of ahead of your time,
yeah. I
or ahead
mean,
of the
we
time.
did
Yeah,
it as a necessity because we had all this youth energy and needed a place to vent it all. So going out in the desert with a generator, I mean, there's no rules. You just you know the thing that was hard as a musician is you had half inch of dirt on all your gear and
yeah.
by the end of the
But at
night.
least
But
you don't have to shut off at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. or anything like that. I mean, you can continue playing however long you want.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a very free
Yeah.
environment. And so
How many people, like your largest gig? How many is that?
played opened for people like Al Green and Julian Lennon and like at the Hard Rock played that. So I think the most people I played in front of was 6,000 or something like that. So
Wow.
done some big shows and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you have.
So proud to say that's in my background. In my book, I wanted to reflect that a little bit. So some of the people doing endorsements are people that I have made friends over the years that are more known names. That are just great musicians and artists, and it's not all just a literary field. So yeah. So that's a big part of my past, big part of my history, even part of my present. It's also part of my leanings into addiction. So, that was,
Before we go into addiction, you were sharing with me before we started recording, with music, how music is still involved in your life. Tell me a little bit about that as well.
yeah, and kind of blending the two together in a way. So there's the raising my daughter by myself aspect. Then I got remarried, and we'll go to this. But there was no time for music. Being a full-time dad, full-time parent. So I wasn't able to really do music for years, probably almost a decade, really. I still played occasionally and picked up some gigs here and there, but it definitely wasn't my focus. My focus was on the kids. And now that two of the kids have moved out, well, two things. One is music and addiction. I sort of blended them together in my mind. When I got clean, I sort of blamed music. It definitely enabled a lot of harmful behaviors, unhealthy behaviors. So it was kind of good to be away from it. But I never stopped like writing songs and playing. And you just come to realize it's in your blood. There's nothing you can do to change it. So I embraced that finally, and I started thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do to help other addicts, alcoholics? And I came across sound healing, and I started reading about the science. There's all this new science in the last 20 years around sound and how it affects our bodies. And I always knew that, but I could never prove that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, music saved my life, in the times, my darkest periods. It got me through just, my emotional bond to song or sound. And now there's studies that are proving, the ways I used to express, I tell people like, this is how it makes me feel. Like, don't you feel that? And people are like, I mean, I do, but, and now it's like proven, and anyway, so I ended up getting certified as a sound healer, which is different from a music therapist, but a sound healer. And what I've been doing is writing this material that are sound frequencies that are designed to help addicts go through the anxiety of withdrawals, and sometimes what I believe that alcoholism and addiction is a disease, and our thoughts can be affected by sound, and so this is a way to uplift, clarify, basically put at ease. So I have a pseudonym, uh, which is Pablo Veranos, and that is my name in Spanish. So it's up on. I have music up on all the major platforms, and I'm putting more up all the time. But so that's the direction I'm going with music now, and I love it because it's unrestricted creativity. It's finding soundscapes that are really like ambient and atmospheric, and it's the kind of stuff that I listen to relax. And so
I've never understood people where music isn't a part of their daily life. I've never understood that, because I mean, whether it's in the morning and I'm fixing, breakfast for the boys, and they come downstairs and they'll tell me like, Dad, there's no telling what you're going to have on. I mean, I can have from, Snoop Dogg to Dr. Dre, Eminem to Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Travis Tritt. I mean, I can, I might have Prince on at times. I mean, it just, old R&B to, old rock, just really just kind of runs the gamut. And you talk about with the mood you're in and how certain songs can speak to you. I think we are drawn to that, aren't we?
Yeah, it definitely affects moods. My wife is and kids are often commenting like, how do you know words to all these songs? It doesn't matter what era it's from. I mean, not so much the 2010s on, I suppose. I don't know all those lyrics, but yeah, I mean, I've always been a
That's
person.
Amazing. Hey, let's go into, you were talking about with the band, and I imagine you were exposed to a lot. You kind of alluded to that.
Yes.
Sure you had your groupies and all of that. And at the same time, you were probably faced with a lot of things that, say, people that aren't in bands are faced with, and, whether it's drugs, whatever it may be. And I kind of wanted to go into your addiction as well, how that started and how that really grabbed a hold of you and then start going through your life.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think my story is similar to a lot of alcoholics, where the first time they ever drank, they got, so drunk that they were throwing up and everything. That was me, at I think 13 or 14. My brother got me drunk, and because he wanted to drink it, buddy, I think. But anyway, yeah, and then playing clubs at 19. Now I'm drinking at 19. I don't play every night of the week, so whatever night I do play, it's a party, and it's a party till you drop kind of thing, and so that would sort of set the foundation. Again, I believe that it's a disease. So the saying, one is too many, 1,000 never enough. I mean, that was me. I wasn't the guy that could have 2 beers and be cool. It was like once I had that first beer in me, or that first hit of anything, I knew like 2 or 3 or 4 of those would make me feel better. I just knew it.
Yeah.
So I had to chase it. And I always, the results were most commonly, getting sick, or not being myself anymore, getting into even worse behaviors. And so yeah, I mean, it was definitely a life of indulgence, being a musician, seeing, I mean, Vegas itself, you're seeing people sort of acting in their most primal ways. It's
Right.
a city of indulgence, and then to be, kind of, put on a pedestal as a musician, and the things that you can indulge in, you know, without restriction, basically. That probably didn't help. Yeah, I don't, I don't think that was all that healthy for me. But I didn't seem to mind, and you know, until it was so noticeable, I was just like, you know, I got to leave. I got to leave here. Every time I try to stop doing, depending on what the drug was, you know, booze or meth or pills, I just like I couldn't seem to stop running into people that were offering me stuff. You know,
What was your drug of choice?
it kind of changed over the years. I mean, it started out as alcohol, and then the alcohol I took a hiatus from. I'll say on a one night I was playing a club and I uh, got into some cocaine. It was Christmas Eve, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm at this bar, and in Vegas, the bars don't close; they stay open all night.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, we're having kind of like this Christmas party with my bandmates, and then somebody breaks out some cocaine, and next thing I know, it's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm supposed to go to my family's house for Christmas, and and the bartender, he's like, "Bro, you know, don't you have somewhere to be?" And I'm just like, "What? What? Oh, shoot, yeah." You know, I'm sitting there milking a Jack and Coke, you know, and uh, I go to the girlfriend I had at the time, like our apartment, you know, and I don't want to like let her know I'm coming in at 7 in the morning, so I lay on the futon, and 5 minutes later, you know, I'm laying there spinning, and 5 minutes later, she's like, "Oh, you're already up. Oh, great. You know, let's go. They're waiting
Oh my
for us." You
gosh.
know, I get to my parents' house, and for 3 hours, I'm throwing up in front of my brother's and his wife's kids. You know,
Oh,
you know, and it was a really big deal to my girlfriend at that time to go to her family's house after my family's house because her mom and dad were in this ugly divorce, and they agreed because her and I were living together and we had what was appearing to be a solid relationship. They agreed to like, you know, meet for Christmas, and I don't even make it because I'm too
oh my gosh.
drunk. And so that was, you know, a big enough event for me to just feel so disgusted in myself, you know, so I quit drinking. But then I got into so many other things, and that became so that was the first drug of choice. The next one was meth, and so meth sort of took over my last years in Vegas, and that was the one where I just couldn't seem to stop. All my play places and play people were everywhere, and so I moved to Portland, Oregon, which I live close to now. But I moved to Portland, Oregon in the mid '90s, and because I thought, you know, this is going to be it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be done. I won't have this crap around me. I've licked alcohol, and now I'm going to lick meth. You know, it took 3 weeks to find the meth dealer in the neighborhood. You know, because we know we like, oh, that guy, he's probably knows where to get some. And sure enough, I mean, back
Wow.
running, gunning, that turned into a gradual pill addiction also. So the opioids became a drug of choice, especially, you know, when OxyContin came out. It was like, to me, it was like how people get with crack. Or not crack. With cocaine. You know, you want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it.
Mhm.
That's however they designed that drug. That's what it did. That made it different from other opiates, for me at least. And so,
Was this pre fentanyl?
yeah, pre-fentanyl. I never tried fentanyl. Thank God. You know,
Thank
thank God.
goodness. You
Yeah,
might not be here. I mean
I might not
that's
be here.
it's
I mean,
horrible.
yeah,
And now they're, you know, now they're mixing it with so many other drugs as well.
I have a guy that I work with. His stepson. He was just out with his buddies, and you're hearing these stories constantly now, or way too many times now. You know, they thought they were gonna go get some Vicodin, you know, some regular prescribed
Hmm.
stuff, and it looked exactly like that, and he died. I mean, he, he overdosed in front of his friends, you know, and I mean,
Gosh.
the horror, you know, I don't know, it's just horrible, like.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you hear that, and so many cases of it. You hear it way too much. It's way
Yeah,
too common. The deaths of high school kids and such, and it's the same thing you're talking about. I mean, they'll think a pill, whether
right.
it's a Xanax, whatever it may be, and little did they know it was laced with fentanyl, and
Right.
it's the end of a life. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's keep going. Let's keep going through that, as well as meeting your former wife. And
So I was always one to keep part-time jobs. Always I always pushed aside career jobs because I always wanted to make it in music. So I had a part-time job at a photo studio, and that's where I met my daughter's mom. Excuse me. She was about 20 and I was about 38, so we had a big age difference there.
yeah,
And I was still playing a lot and working part time. Anyway, at that point, the opioid addiction had pretty much set in. Was still doing meth. Still wasn't drinking, however. And we got into a relationship. We got pregnant, and this is about the point where the book starts. So um, I wanted to have a kid, and I believe she wanted to be the person to give me a kid. She had her own addiction, also mostly just to pot, though, And anyway, the I think the struggles, the I don't know, the struggles, the hardship of parenting, the difficulties. Uh, it was a lot for us, so we sought refuge in getting high. And I'd say about 3 years into raising our daughter, the drugs had become an everyday doing. I would say we lost a house. We actually, I'm pretty savvy. I guess, they say they they say never underestimate the resourcefulness of an addict. I was able to sell the house before we lost it, but we were, I think, $40,000 or $50,000 in credit card debt because we're going to the ATM and pulling out money for dope.
wow,
Yeah, it was a very dark period. We end up, now we're no longer homeowners, so we're in an apartment, and I can't find a way to stop. I want to stop so bad, and I especially at that point the opiates, because they were daily now. Now there's that monkey, I'm not even getting high anymore. I'm just
so you knew it had a hold of you, and you were wanting to stop.
yeah, and I had no
Just
idea
couldn't.
how.
Yeah.
And so I was begging God to just take me out. I was like, just what am I doing? This is, I'm barely present for my daughter. I'm a terrible husband. I'm, mad all the time and hate myself. And so I went to, I called a hotline, like a suicide hotline, and
Mhm.
they they asked me to go to inpatient treatment. I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to be away from my daughter for 30 days, because I'm in denial. I'm
Yeah.
not even really there for my daughter, to be honest. Neither one of us were his parents at that point. And I agreed to an outpatient treatment. And that was where I was introduced to meetings. And I strung together about 60 days and was starting to feel better. And then I started looking at all the reasons I was okay and I didn't really need, these 12 steppers. And they were different from me, and their recovery was different from mine, and I could probably just do a couple pills and I'll be okay. And I mean, within a very short amount of time, I was right back to daily use. And then I came up with the great idea of, well, maybe if I go back to alcohol, I can stop doing pills.
Oh
So,
boy.
all the things we tell ourselves will work when we're all
Yeah.
alone. We isolate ourselves so we can have this like reasoning going on in our heads.
Right.
Yeah. So after I think it was 11 or 12 years I had sober, I'm back drinking. I mean, the very first night I got drunk. My wife, my daughter's mom, she said I like spit on her and I was calling her names and I was like, I don't even, now I'm a blackout drunk. I was never a blackout drunk. And now I'm a blackout drunk. And, I think a couple months of that went on, probably like 7 or 8, like it dragged on. Just every day it was survival to go get more dope basically.
Yeah.
And, I said to her, we had a long talk one morning and I said to her, look, I need to either die or be done with drugs. It's one or the other. Like, and
Wow.
and I said because she
What a
was my
low,
friend,
what a low place to fill.
yeah. Oh man. Oh man. And because I just and my thinking was, well, she's younger. She'll have the ability to parent on her own. This is my like. I'm gonna claim complete unaccountability at this point. Let me just end it, kind of thing. I didn't want to kill myself. That
Right.
I've never wanted to do that, but I was killing myself.
Yeah.
And I said, so we need to stop. I need to see that you're gonna be clean before I die. I don't know, weird addict, thinking the
Yeah.
disease coming up with bargaining and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, she was not going to have any of that. The next day I came home from this different temp job that I had at that time, because we had lost a few jobs along that way. And place was empty. Daughter was gone. Wife was gone. Got a phone call.
Oh shit.
And I said, you need to, and my dope was gone. Our dope, like the last of the dope that we had over the weekend. I mean, I have a temp job and I've already called in sick like 3 times in 1 month, because I'm sick all the time. And anyway, so
Oh
I
my
get a phone
gosh.
call and it's her, and she says, hey, and I go, hey, you need to get your ass here. I'm going to beat your ass, is what I said. So I threatened her, which
Yeah.
wasn't okay. I would never have beat her ass, but I did threaten her, and I did threaten her, and there's no buts to that. What I just shared,
Yeah.
it wasn't okay. And she said, "You don't talk to me like that. You'll never fucking see your daughter again." Was the last words I heard,
Oh my gosh.
before a click, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't the first relationship I had lost. It wasn't the first, person I had made angry or pushed away. But there's a 3.5-year-old kid, and I love my daughter so much, and I just like that, unacceptable. Unacceptable that I would lose my kid over my addiction, over my bad choices, over. The other thing is, I grew up as a shared, playing music, and I think my bigger fear was I didn't want her to grow up without a dad.
Yeah.
The women that the women that were often drawn to me were the ones that didn't have dads
Yeah.
in their lives, and so I'm looking at like, okay, come to God moment, come to Jesus, however you want to say it. I don't want my daughter to be daddyless.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No, I
know
get that. It's not every female that grew up without a father, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
it's
That's right.
extremely common.
Right.
They call it daddy issues, but
Yeah.
it's extremely common where they don't have strong relationship with men or healthy relationships with men,
Correct.
and knowing how to relate to men.
Yeah.
And so they're more
Right.
promiscuous, whatever it may be.
Well,
Um,
I've had, my relationships with the ones that didn't have dads in their life. They're afraid of that commitment, like because it's so confusing to them. I mean, that's what that'd be. To add to what you're saying, I think the term "daddy issues" it kind of has become sort of a joke or funny.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair. There's a lot more to work out, and that's what I ran into over and over was a fear of commitment. Just
Let me ask you this. So when you came home and the apartment was vacant, your daughter was gone, was that a direct result from your addiction, or was that because she didn't want to get clean, or was it just, what do you think? What do you think the pure reason for that was? Why she packed up all her shit and left?
I can only really be accountable to my side of it.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure what her reason was. I don't know that I'll ever know. I would just say I was so unbearable to live with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of, in a way, it's probably me sort of, putting it on her a little bit to say, well, she wanted to keep partying, so she took our kid and went out and kept partying. That's what happened. I don't know that that was why that happened.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
she had other plans. She was also a lot younger, and she, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would not want to speculate on her reasoning or what was happening in her head. All I know is what happened was she, disappeared. Um, it took a few weeks to even know she was around somewhere. Uh, and so I'm going crazy missing my kid. I was
Yeah.
the
Because
one,
all this time you don't have your daughter.
right. Yeah. I mean, I was the one
Yeah.
that gave her baths every night and put her to sleep and fed her in the morning. And had a very close bond. The
And
other
your
part
daughter's how old at this time is your
she was
daughter?
she was 3.5 at that time, almost
Oh,
4. It was almost her 4th birthday. And the other thing was I got served a restraining order, and in the restraining order it said that her and her my daughter's mom and my daughter were afraid for their lives, and that I was physically abusive, and that wasn't true. So I had to fight that. I had made a call to a lawyer before I got served the restraining order because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what my rights were. This was all, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of men. It's like I was blindsided by this. Suddenly I can't see my kid, be with my kid, and her family doesn't want to talk to me, and I don't know what pictures being painted on that side of the street.
hmm.
And so I call a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, "Well, she's going to serve you a restraining order." I'm like, "No, she would never do that. She would never do that." And sure enough, I get served, and and I actually got served twice, and I had a Beaverton, Oregon police officer come and basically read me the riot act and put the fear in, I mean, he's pointing his finger in my chest. You will not call her, wife beaters like you. And I'm like, oh my God, like, man, very hard time,
All just to build her case.
all just to build her case. Yeah. I like to try to speak in balance, on the bright side of that. The first day, the day after this happened, I went to a meeting. I hadn't been to a meeting in about 9 months, and
So,
I mean, I fell apart there, and people were there to help me. They picked me up, and
so so let's go back to that.
yeah,
You walk in, everything's gone.
okay,
You're trying to figure out, where she is, where your daughter is, trying to clear your head and wrap your arms around everything. Do you immediately want to use? I mean, are you looking? You said she took your drugs as well, took the dope you had. Like, I would think most addicts then would, oh, I've got to find a fix. I've got to find something to get me through this.
yeah, and here's the that's such a great question because it's something that it doesn't come up much. It was a clarifying moment. So, I looked at the walls in the apartment, and you know, I think I said something like "great" or something like that, and I could hear my voice echo off the walls because some of the things had been taken off. It's just the the sound of the emptiness. It hit me, and like I was saying a little bit ago, it wasn't the first time. And how many times is my drug addiction going to destroy my relationships? And so I knew immediately, like, this is the thing I need to
Yeah.
change. And so I asked myself that question out loud. Do I call my dealer or do I go to a meeting? And fortunately I chose the latter, you know.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
But yeah. I mean, I did think about it. Of course, I thought about it. There had been
Just the
quite.
love of your daughter. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
There had been quite a few times where I was able to quit drinking for a month, or quit doing pills for 3 weeks, or quit doing meth for 3 months. And this was like, the voices in my head were like, you're just lying to yourself. You're going to get clean just long enough to like go out and do more damage. I mean, I had all that doubt was there for sure. It's it's been a while since I even remembered having those thoughts. But yeah, I mean, that was all there for sure.
Jeez. What a turning point. You were talking earlier about begging God. I'm sure prior to that he was showing you ways, but sometimes what I've noticed in my life, I'm not always the brightest, but sometimes God has to hit me on the head. And I
Yeah,
know with some things I've even prayed to God, like, hey, God, I'm not the brightest guy, and I miss a lot of your clues, a lot of your cues. You're going to have to be very, very clear to me. So please, and the way I always think is you better be careful what you ask God for, or because
yeah,
he'll answer. It might not be the way you hope it'll be,
yeah.
the way you're expecting, but he'll answer
Well,
one way or
yeah, for
another.
sure. I mean, I believe in God. Really through, uh, it started with believing in a higher power, which is a part of the program, and
Right.
I call that higher power God. But part of, I mean, my prayers every day is for knowledge of His will, the ability to like be quiet and listen and to hear
Right.
God's will, and then the courage and the power and the strength to carry it out. That's every day for me. That's what I pray for. I don't necessarily pray for things. I just want the ability to
Serenity prayer.
yeah, and do, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's a daily thing, and um,
Let's go into. So you were served with a restraining order,
yes,
and you are clean at that time. Going to meetings. Are you clean? Are you still kind of using what?
no, I mean, I stopped everything that
You
day.
stopped
So
everything right
yeah,
then. Boom.
yeah,
I'm done.
yep. So
Wow.
so 2 days into it, I'm served a restraining order. The court date was for about a month out.
Hmm.
And so I'm talking to this lawyer, and this is, to me, one of those God things. She was new. She was a bulldog, and she was, wanting to start off fresh and like, just get in there.
Yeah.
She was awesome. But also, so I benefit because I had no money. The other thing is, my daughter's mom had buried the bank accounts, like emptied everything out and took it all. So I had no money. Um, uh, but she was willing to talk to me about what's going on. It wasn't like, well, I'm going to bill you by the second here. I was just so blessed that, poor guy, poor musician soul such as myself, was able to find, that I was able to get her on the phone. I called like not knowing what even to ask, uh, and so she came to court with me for the hearing, and um, my daughter's mom was there, and she approached my daughter's mom and said, hey, I'm representing Paul. I don't see a lawyer here with you. And like, she went, he got a lawyer? Like, she was so surprised that I was going to fight this, this
Hmm.
restraining order. And, we go into court, and because my daughter's mom doesn't have a lawyer, um, my lawyer asked for a continuance, so she can get
Hmm.
representation, and the judge says, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. We're gonna move it this hearing to later in August. Well, my daughter's birthday is in early August, and I'm just like, oh my God, no, I can't miss my daughter's birthday. I haven't seen her.
Because you still haven't seen her.
Yeah, and
Ugh.
uh, my daughter's mom like raises her hand. She's like, our daughter's birthday is coming up. I want him to see her for her birthday. She's gonna be, she can't miss her dad on her birthday, on her birthday. And the judge is like, ma'am, do you realize the allegations you've made against this man? You said right here, you're afraid for your life and you want him to see his daughter. And I'm surprised she didn't drop the restraining order then, but now her case is, coming apart. And so fortunately the judge granted that, that I could see her on her birthday, supervised, of course. But man, I took every blessing I could get, and very hard time for our daughter, I think, more than anybody, because now there's like, we're not even going to be able to see each other, because the restraining order is still in effect. Everything's got to be done through the grandparents. They're very suspect of me. They're scared I'm going to take our daughter and run back to Vegas.
Yeah.
That they would never see her again because they love, and I really grew up. I mean, I grew up. That period was like trial by fire, and I got to say, I'm extremely grateful for it, even for what my daughter's mom did, because it pulled my head out of my ass. It was the best thing that ever happened. The worst day of my life, best thing that ever happened, because here I am 16 years later, still haven't touched any drugs or alcohol. So
that's great. Let's talk about, you had mentioned in our prior conversation about when you were in court and you noticed the judge. I want to hear more about from you with being a father, trying to get custody in the court system, and what you saw, what you experienced as a father trying to obtain custody, because you ended up, I hate to, spoiler alert, you ended up getting sole custody, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
I want to kind of go through that, because you had mentioned about, the judge passing out restraining orders to females left and right. But can you kind of elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's a touching, emotional subject, for men. And, men, I don't think in general aren't as able to speak when we're flooded with emotion. It comes out all crazy. Or crazy sounding, at least, and we have feelings. We're emotional beings. We're attached to our kids. We want to be in their lives. We want to be loving, nurturing parents, and we can do that as adequately as any woman. I mean, I firmly believe that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if, being a musician and an artist, makes me more feminine than the average man. I don't know, or open to femininity, or, but there's a balance, and there's a reason for the balance of male and female and all that. And that's getting off on the weeds. Okay. What I experienced, with the restraining order, it ends up getting dropped, and I just felt I made the right choice by getting a female lawyer, I think, first.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think Oregon is, well, statistically, it's one of the states where fathers are granted more, a good percentage, like a more fair and equitable percentage of custody. So there's that. And I know there's states where that's not the case.
I think there's 19 states, currently 19 states where the standard is 50-50.
Okay.
For custody. Yeah, it's generally it's the blue states.
Yeah.
Where you'll see that. Where then you'll have other ones. I'm in Georgia, and it's in one of the bottom 5, and I think it's 24%, 23% for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that has to change, and I know there's pushes out there to change that, and a lot of other things seem to need to change going into that, including cultural perspectives. But so what I found was, so now now I'm clean. I'm doing everything to stay clean, and by default, I'll use that term. My daughter's mom just starts showing up less and less. Her addiction, I believe, was stronger than she wanted to believe, perhaps. But anyway, she starts showing up. I can just speak to the actions. Is I get a call. Hey, I can't be there tomorrow to pick up. Hey, I'm running late. Hey, I'm sick. Hey, I can't. And she's not working. She's constantly asking me for financial help, and anytime I offer it, there was a lot of like bargaining. I'll leave some stuff for the book. People read the book. But like, what is happening is, my daughter is sharing information. I know who all the drug dealers are. I was just going to them, just a few months prior, and it's like, hey, we went to so-and-so's and we were at so-and-so's. And it's like, okay, well, that's pretty much a sign she's still using, because you don't go to a dealer's house unless you're picking up, right? And so I don't know what to do other than, because I can't prove it really, but I go to court, and it took a couple times of going to court, and asking a judge for emergency custody. Again, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I've never dealt with anything like this, so the learning curve is steep. There were a couple times I went to court and left, because I wasn't sure of my own. I wasn't sure of my own desires, as far as, was I just trying to get back at her? I didn't want to do it for that reason. I wanted to. I had to be clear in my head. I'm doing this for our daughter. I really feel she needs to be safe, protected, and so I need to advocate for that. And I'm the only one that's going to do it. And so I, share a short part of the book where I go into a courtroom, and it's a hearing for, oddly enough, for restraining orders, and then my case for emergency custody. So I sit through 5 cases of women saying, they want a restraining order against their, either their child's father, baby daddy. I don't like that term either. Child's father, or boyfriend, the guy that they're with. And each one of them, I think of those 5, they almost all said the same thing, as far as like it was scripted. Like, you go in to file a restraining order, and before I forget this real quick, a restraining order is a great tool, because there are bad people out there that don't respect boundaries.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The law needs to be involved with men and women that don't respect another person's boundaries. So I'm not saying the restraining order.
They are extremely valuable. They definitely have their place. But I'm going to jump ahead.
Yeah,
they also are abused as well and misused.
They're abused. Yeah,
especially when it comes to divorce and custody. Yeah, they are abused.
They are abused, and I got to see it firsthand. It was like it was scripted. Like, everybody had the same script, and it was the same one that was on my daughter's mom's restraining order. It was like, we're afraid for our lives, and then the judge tried to peer into it a little bit, and say, well, you guys have a kid together. How is he with the kid? And they had pretty much, the general answer was like, oh, he's great with the kid, or, we want him to keep seeing his kid, and then it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, but okay, I'll go ahead and grant the restraining order. And it's like, yeah, it's a tool being taken advantage of. It's, and it turns into the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you should take it seriously, I think. But anyway, so my case comes up, and I tell the judge, my daughter's telling me that um, she's still going around these people that are, meth users, and the judge stopped me, and she said, "Sir, you've got to be kidding me," and I'm like, "No," and she said, "You're going to come into my courtroom without proof of something like this, these accusations?" And I said, "Well, I don't know how to get proof. Hire a private eye. I don't know how I'm going to get proof. I work full time, and because by default I have my daughter like most days of the week. I don't know how am I supposed to get proof." And she said, "You're expecting me to drag a 4-year-old into my courtroom and tell on her mom?" And I was like, "Oh no." And all the women that were still there from the restraining order hearings, they were all laughing at me. And I just, I said the serenity prayer right then and there, oddly enough. I mean, I think the old me would have been feisty and, got my case thrown out for sure. But I just sat there. I just sat there quietly, and I, kind of shook my head down and like, I don't know what to do here, And the judge said, "I see a lot of men come in here and they try to get back at their wives through this type of emergency protective order." She said, you need to come here with proof, but because I'm a mandatory reporter, I have to turn this into Child Protective Services. Now if you can get one or two other people to do the same, then they will then the case will get started and they will start looking into your allegations. But she said, "Don't come into my courtroom trying to do something. You need to be genuine." And I was like, I am. You don't know that, but so that was what got the ball rolling. And
I just wonder how different it would have been if it was,
oh
a mom
yeah,
that was in there versus a dad.
yeah, there would have been no question.
I think we know the answer to that, but
Yeah, I and I think so too. And it's like those are the kind of like emotional, truths, if we could call them truths. We don't know, but that sort of, I don't know. Like it's a wonder I got through that time. I'll say that.
yeah.
It was like I think. Oh man, I think at that time I felt that I'd rather. I mean, I wanted to give up. I just thought, like,
Sure you did.
why did I do all this? Why am I going through all this?
So many men do want to give up.
Right.
I talk to a lot of them, and when they're up against the court system, it is, why should I even? I mean, I don't have my kids with me. I'm climbing this uphill battle, fighting this uphill battle, climbing this mountain. Everything's against me. I just don't have a chance. And unfortunately, a lot of men do give up. They do give up and they just accept it. It's just the way, it's just the way it is. Fortunately, you did not, but you still have fight in front of you. So continue, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
And that's a great thing to point out. And that's part of the advocacy of this book is the not give up. Just don't give up. Keep trying. You have to learn as men, and I'm speaking to your audience. You have to learn how to channel that emotion and sometimes it's rage even and anger, and find the ways that the system is going to listen to you. Because we can be heard. We just got to find out how to. We got to learn how to speak. And so maybe this was one of the benefits of the program. Being in a 12-step program and being around a lot of recovering people. Well, a lot of them are single moms, and single moms deal with this stuff all the time, and they know how to navigate the system. And so a sponsor I had at the time. that got set into motion now, and then some other people actually also reported her, and I mean, I won't go too much into because it's a graphic part of the book. My daughter was unfortunately harmed in her mom's care,
Mm.
and that was what. I mean, and she reported it to me, which I'm grateful for. Uh, Her mom and I had always talked to her about reporting. Anybody touching inappropriately, you know, come to us. Please come to us. Make sure to come to us.
Mm.
Discuss it with us. So she did. Immediately I got Child Protective Services involved. Um, we had to go to the hospital and do these checks, and I made sure that her mom came along because it happened on her watch, and I wanted her
Mm-hmm.
to not get a second-hand story about this. I wanted her involved. And the next day, after after play therapy and psychologists had determined that there was inappropriate touching and harm done, we were both asked to meet at the Child Protective Services, and that was when I was awarded custody, sole custody at that time. The My daughter's mom had avoided ever taking a P test, so they concluded you must be on drugs. No rational person would,
Right.
avoid. I think at that point 3 or 4 months they had been asking her for a P test, and it didn't go well. It did not go well at all. It was a very strained experience. And the
Paul, let me ask you something.
yeah
I mean, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and part of it is there's some relief that your daughter's with you, she's safe,
yeah
and she's finally there with you. She's safe. But damn, there's another part of me where there is just a rage to the court system that
yeah.
my daughter had to be harmed before you would allow her to be safe in my care. Did you have any of that? Was there any sort of rage or anger at family court? Any of that? Or you seem more like a peaceful person, so you probably didn't than I would have. I would have been enraged with that.
Uh, Here's the odd thing. The the person harmed the most, obviously, is my daughter.
Right.
Um, uh, some people that know me pretty well would probably argue with you that I'm a peaceful person because I have my moments.
Right.
I have my moments. But thank you. It's taken a lot of work to be a more peaceful person. Yes, of course I had rage, but my focus was my daughter. So
Uh,
I I'm just one of those. I don't know. I'm empathic, I guess. Uh, we were talking earlier about sound healing and science. The science is picking up on these frequencies and vibrations. Well, I believe in those things between a parent and a child. Like we pick up on each
hmm.
other. You,
True.
you definitely you definitely
Wow.
know it when they can't talk yet. You're
Right.
picking up on vibes and facial things. But it's like if I'm carrying that rage, now my daughter's like she's already going through enough, so I have to
Gotcha.
compartmentalize that, which I'm
Yeah.
not good at compartmentalizing. But
No, but that's a really good point because I know with going through the divorce, the boys were my sons were always looking at me, and I knew that if if I didn't hold it together, if I was not a solid person, having my wits about me, that they would fall apart too. That they looked at me for
yeah,
safety, and if I was okay, they were okay.
yeah,
So I guess that's where, yeah, I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's definitely Ooh, man. I mean, that, that's I don't know. What do you call that? It's just the,
So I was, again, I hate to talk about me. I'll make it short because you're the guest on here. But I remember, again, with my divorce, and I was also going to a therapist then to try to help me, maintain my mental health, emotional health, and be a good dad, and just help me get through that period.
yeah.
I remember my therapist asking me, he's like, "You need to get mad. I've met with you. I can't remember how many times, several times." He's like, "There's just no anger." Every class or every session, we'd have a check-in. And it's, what is your depression level? What is your anger? What is your this? What is your that? And my anger was always really low. And he's like, "Why? Like, why are you not mad?" After, and he would go through with, the divorce process and different things that were being done and all of, everything I was fighting. And I just told him, I told him, I said, "Doctor," I said, I don't have an answer for you, but every day I pray for peace."
Okay.
And I said, in my mind, I'm thinking that I want peace around me. And I said, "But I guess what I'm receiving is peace within."
Okay.
And he was like, "Okay, that explains it." Because, from what you've told me about your past and how I can see you get, it's just, that actually makes sense now. But
Yeah.
what you had received was peace within, and to help your daughter get through this.
Yeah. And like listening to you share that, it's nice when a therapist likes what you have to say. Uh, I also believe it's instinctual. I think it's instinctual as
Yeah.
I can't speak for women because I don't know what their instincts are totally. On but as a dad, I think it was instinctual to protect.
Yeah.
Instead of, because raging, you're out of control. If
Yeah.
I'm out of control, I'm not protecting.
Yeah.
So I
True.
think it was,
Great point.
I think it was like a primal instinct was, because a few of my friends, they were just like, dude, this person that was sleeping with my daughter's mom and inappropriately touched my daughter, like, don't you want to kill him? And it's like, I don't have time to focus on that, man. And they'd be
Yeah.
like, that's not you. And
Great
I'm,
point.
yeah,
Great point.
I
Great
don't,
and very, very mature of you.
I suppose
So this was how many years ago? 12 years ago, something like that?
this was 15 years ago now.
15 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would wrap
Yeah.
up one other thing that I wanted to say
Yeah.
that speaks to your audience definitely is um, child support. So, here I am, the custodial parent, and I should be getting child support. Yeah, I mean that's how the system is set up, is it not?
Should be.
And what happens to a man when he doesn't pay his child support? Do you know? What's the
Oh yeah. I mean, you're in jail. It's, yeah.
jail? License taken away, uh, wages garnished. I've had friends who they no longer went to work because they didn't think it was fair how they were treated. My case, about a year into sole custody, um, my daughter gets diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So now I'm looking
Mhm.
at exorbitant insulin chart. Oh my gosh, insulin.
Yeah.
You know, and uh, you know, and what I mentioned the women in the program. Like the child support they send me, the state sends me. Hey, we talked to the judge. Like they operate on your behalf, right? Um, and we went to the judge. We're still trying to hold the mom accountable, the other parent accountable, and it's like, man, something needs to happen. And I was patient, and again, I went through like, should I go fight this? And then I didn't, and then I talked to some women, and they said, well, you need to get in front of the judge and you need to express your hardship. And like, as a man, I'm like, well, I don't want to look bad.
Yeah.
I'm not struggling, but I was struggling. I
Right.
mean, I was barely making it paycheck to paycheck, and uh, so I decided to show up in court, and the state people. Sorry, I can't think of what their official titles are, but the people that advocate for your kid on behalf of child support that
Mm-hmm.
go in front of the judge, they said, what are you doing here? We got this. And I said, well, I want to show my face. I want to advocate for my child. And they're like, oh no, we can do this. And I said, no, I really want to do that. And the woman laughed. She said, oh, okay, all right. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then I see my daughter's mom there. At this point, we're divorced. So I see my ex-wife there, and she's in shock that I'm there. And she hasn't called in months and months, you know, and to talk to our daughter. So there's already this abandonment is already in place, and our case comes up, and I'm watching every case before me, and every single one of them is like, is a single mom saying, this guy's not providing the child support that he's supposed to pay, and bangs the gavel, he's going to be fined this, or we're going to take away that. And my case comes up, or my daughter's case comes up, and is there anybody here representing the kid? And then I was in the back of the courtroom, and I said, I am, I'm her dad. And every other woman that got called up to the front to address the judge. Well, she addressed me from the back of the courtroom. And yeah, so I'm, and and she's like, what do you have to say? And at that point, I had a folder full of every 3 months. I think the child support people would send me something saying, here's how much it is in arrears. We're not able to get any money for you at this point. She has no money or whatever. And I said, I have here, Your Honor, all these, all this saying we're going to do something about it. When are you going to hold her accountable? And there was a gasp in the courtroom. Yet that's what every single woman there asked for,
Yeah.
right? And the judge said, excuse me, sir? You expect me to make this, she said, do you expect me to put her in jail? How is that ever going to help your child support case? You'll never see a penny then. And I was just like, and then the women there laughed. And I was like, how are we not on the same team?
Yeah.
How are we not on the same team? I'm fighting for my kid like you guys are fighting for yours. And so I cut into what I was told from other women. And I said, well, Your Honor, my daughter's pants are above her ankles. Her shoes have holes in them. And I played the emotion card,
Yeah.
and that's what I was taught to do. I didn't want to do it. I thought it made me look bad. I was scared, hey, if I'm not providing for my...
Yeah, because we as men have pride, right? I mean, I'm not saying the women don't, but we have pride, and that's partly what we were raised with, is being a provider, and that we can handle it, and we can provide for our children.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you're basically going in front of the judge and everybody else saying, I can't.
Yeah.
I need help.
Well, and that that emotional connection, like she connected with
Yeah.
that. And she looked at, my daughter's mom, and she said, do you think you can manage $100 a month? And she kind of shook her head, and she said, well, if you don't, we're going to put a warrant out for you. So can you do $100? And she agreed to it. So that was the only way that was the start of getting child support, was advocating. So like if there's a message of hope in in telling the story in this book, it's like, don't give up no matter, you don't have to fight necessarily, but just don't give up.
Your book comes out. I want to be, respectful for your time, and I so much appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I know there's a lot more. We've talked about it, but I want to leave a lot for your book for those that are going to read it. Where can people find your book? When does it comes out in a few weeks in February, right?
The name of the book is called Hide and Seek: A Dad's Journey from Soulless Addiction to Soul Custody. That's the name of the book.
Oh, beautiful.
And hide and seek. The use of that is, it's kind of, what we deal with custody. I mean, it was like my daughter was hidden from me, and my daughter and I also had this game of hide and seek we used to play. So there's some touchstones there. The book, so paulsummersjr.com is the website, and that's PAUL, Summers like summertime, SUMMERS, JR for junior, not the word junior spelled out, so junior.com. And I will set up a form on there where you can pre-order the book. So
paulsummersjr.com.
Yeah.
What about anything with social media? Do you have social media page for this or anything like that, or not? No, it's fine if you don't.
I don't have one set up for the book yet. No, I mean I'm on Facebook
but they can find if they go to that site, they'll be able to find the book.
Yeah, and then any other social media that I'm on, advocating for dads and for addicts in recovery.
Great. Yeah. And I will put a link as well to your site.
Okay.
So people can find it as well. And man, I appreciate it. Now, when I get the book, when I order the book, if I send it to you, you gonna put an autograph on there?
I would be honored to do that.
I would be honored for you to do that.
Right on. Yeah, Robert. I so love what you're doing for men, basically. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you saying that. It's a journey. It is being a father, being a dad is something I am extremely passionate about. I feel as society, it's not easy for dads.
Yeah.
And we've also gotten away from the values, the true values for dads and how dads are viewed. And I think I truly believe, and I will argue this to my death, that a lot that's going wrong in society these days is a result of the lack of fathers being involved.
Yeah.
Whether that is themselves, but a lot of times it's the court system. That's the reason for that.
Yeah.
And so what do we do? What can we do as dads to be involved? And I love your story, man. Went through addiction, severe addiction.
Yeah.
Your back was against the wall, uphill battle with court system. I know there's a lot more in your book that goes into detail about that. And then able to receive full custody of your daughter, and now living a beautiful life.
Yeah.
Remarried and have some bonus children as well.
It's good. Life is good.
I appreciate you. Anything else you want to address or anything we missed?
I think we got the important stuff,
Definitely.
Don't get
look, everybody that's listening, go to it's paulsummersjr.com,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So go there, pre-order the book. It will be out in February. And Paul, thank you again for coming on.
Robert,
I really do. I thank you. And, I look forward to future conversations, and I wish you the best of luck with your book as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you all for listening to Dad to Dad's podcast.
Go down.
You can find, there you go. You can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube and Instagram. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, so you don't miss any future episodes. All right. We'll see you all next time. Thank you again.
Thank you.